Hello there. Here we are with issue 53, the bonus issue. Let's go ahead and take a look, see what we got going on here. So first we're going to talk about the Droid Tri-Fighter. It's fast, agile, loaded with deadly weaponry. The Tri-Fighter was a key component to aerial artillery of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Arriving at critical junction in the Clone Wars, the vehicle heaped pressure on a buckling Republic, adding offensive options for a confident and forward-moving separatist military, and leading the charge towards Coruscant. Designed around a central core that housed a powerful and intuitive droid brain, the Tri-Fighter became the bane of the Republic forces during the latter days of the Clone Wars. The three-armed design was drafted by Colocoid Creation Nest, who based the configuration on the skulls of a fierce predator native to their world of Kala 4, while Flak Orfok Automata Industries, sorry, hard to pronounce, and Kala Designs manufactured the vessel in great quantities. Armed and dangerous, the Tri-Fighter's three wing arms surrounded its central core, which housed both the main reactor, protected by the rotating frame, and the control center. Primary armament was an array of 4 laser cannon option. Fixed nose laser at the very front of the fighter had its barrel lined with cooling blades to allow quick heat release and rapid fire. Behind the laser was the discharge unit and targeting scanners with its heuristic droid brain just behind it. Sitting on top of the arm was a bank of capacitors that fed power to the laser cannons and allowed rapid bursts of fire. The wing cannon was mounted on top of the arm, and just behind it sat a support clamp that locked the laser in place while the Tri-Fighter was weaving and dodging and allowed for increased accuracy. So, you see it here. That's the laser cannons, and this is the central laser cannon. So each arm had a laser cannon there. You can see one there and one there. Yeah, the Tri-Fighter also carried Discord missiles. These intelligent projectiles had the fuel tank allowed for 2 minutes of cat and mouse action as the missile targeted its intended victim and chased it until it delivered the payload or sputtered out of fuel. These would have been the missiles that you would have seen in Revenge of the Sith at the beginning. They chased Anakin and Obi-Wan down, and then they went past them, and then they'd blow up, and it would release all the buzz droids. So it talks about that here. It would get past them, and then it would release these buzz droids, which you'd think if it can go past them, then what's the point? Because it just doesn't make any sense, right? It's like if you can go past them, you can just hit them. But the buzz droids were really effective because they would get on the hull and basically tear the ship apart. But it just seems like inefficient to me. But hey, they're droids. They've got something figured out, I guess. Droid brain. The Tri-Fighter was piloted by a droid brain, but while gravity and inertia were not as much of a concern as they would have been with an organic pilot, the droid brain still needed to be well protected. Housed within a gyroscopic core, the canopy rotated to give the droid an excellent view of its surroundings. Large photoreceptors mounted either side of the nose cannon allowed for wide vision, while integrated systems enabled swifter reaction times than the standard Trade Federation Vulture droid. And sowing discord. Talks about the buzz droids. So, could deploy buzz droids to confuse and irritate their enemies. Dropped from Discord missiles, buzz droids would swarm over their target in a wave of metal, ripping, sawing, and tearing at the enemy ships, either until the systems were down by the attack and failed, or the cockpit was exposed to the elements and the pilot expired, or they could or they caused enough confusion for the Tri-Fighter to score an easy kill. This was another reason why Tri-Fighters were an unwelcome sight to the Republic flight wing, for any Republic flight wing. So one thing that I didn't go over was this part here. So the important part was it had a speed of 125 megalights with a maximum speed of 1180 between 1180 and 37,000 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. So they were crazy fast. Multiple power units. The repulsor lift system, which allowed the fighter to fly low over planetary surfaces, was located at the front of the wings, while the ion drive system propelled the vehicle at increased speeds was fitted to the rear of the top arm. Fuel tank was housed here too, as was a chain of power cells which lined the curve of the arm. These were also cooling radiators that allowed the vehicle to operate at high capacity for long periods without overheating. The two lower arms were also utilized for releasing the tremendous buildup of heat which the vessel generated, allowing it to run smoothly at high temperatures. All three wings carried powerful independent thrusters that enabled the Tri-Fighter to maintain its superiority in space and in atmosphere. Independent intelligence. Unlike the Vulture droid cousin, the Tri-Fighters had no need for command instructions from a central control ship and was able to analyze and anticipate enemy tactics and maneuvers. Its intelligent onboard system let Tri-Fighters take it to their opponents either individually or as offensive wings, linking their controls in one coordinated swarm attack. When the Tri-Fighters was designed, its transceiver was unusually powerful for such a small vehicle, giving added offensive options. During the final year of the Clone Wars, the vessel was deployed more and more regularly, giving Republic commanders a tough time, while a skilled and connected Jedi pilot might be able to evade a number of Tri-Fighters. Regular Republic pilots faced enormous difficulty evading their concerted attacks. And this is just talking about them getting used during the Battle of Coruscant, so I'm not going to go into that. But we do have some behind the scenes again. Woohoo! The Tri-Fighter has been depicted in several different ways across the many and varied forms of Star Wars productions and licensed products. In 2003, animated micro series by Gendy Tarkovsky, Below. So that's what they were like below. It showed the Tri-Fighter with a single central main gun, differing in style to the movie version that would appear 2 years later. Lego's first Tri-Fighters, which appeared in 2005, had a buzz droid located where the droid brain would usually be housed. However, a later set launched in 2010 had a rocket battle droid sitting in a cockpit. 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2 had likewise showed the Tri-Fighter with a droid pilot instead of a droid brain. It also swapped out the central laser cannon for a chain gun, most likely for dramatic purposes. So there's some variations there. Districts of Coruscant. So not a lot here. It just basically talks about how it was, broken into different zones and all that kind of stuff. And one of them was called the Works and the Wall. The Works is where the industrial zone was, and that's where Sidious and Count Dooku met up. So that's where all the industrial stuff and probably not a lot of traffic there and that kind of stuff. One of the things too was, of course, after the Empire, was the Alien Protection Zone. Close by, the Alien Protection Zone holds alien visitors within a walled neighborhood. In keeping with the Empire's humanocentric ideals. It arranged regular storm trooper patrols, and the inhabitants were harassed by their armed guards. Walled off from uh, more central regions of the Galactic City, this ghetto was a symptom of the Empire's twisted ideals. Den of despair, so there's lots of slums and that kind of stuff. So that's pretty kind of interesting and whatnot to understand. Um, Dinner and a show. So the Collective Commerce District was also known as Cocoa Town. It was a thriving region, notable for its many eateries and plazas. So this is where you could go to eat, but also see shows and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty interesting. Crime hotspots. This one was really cool because I'm trying to think of. Uh, so somewhere around here, it talked about how many levels. Okay, 5,127 levels uh, is in on Coruscant. So quite a few levels, right? Um, which I would imagine with that many levels, then the actual planet would really be smaller than normal. But yeah, add on all those other levels, and they probably count that as part of the planet's size or what have you. So, as benefit of planet spanning city, all areas of the Coruscant have locations that used by a criminal underclass. The southern pole of the planet houses several underworld hotspots, primarily the region known as the Southern Underground, one of a plethora of such regions spread across the planet. The Southern Underground is part of the wider Coruscant Underground that lattices across the world. The region was once the headquarters of the Black Sun ruler, Prince Zizor, and was home to his 102-story high palace, as well as sitting close to the vast Hazamadi warehouse district. So, yeah, pretty crazy to think that you could have a palace that's 102 stories high. Like, that's just obnoxious. Escape Pods Part 2. So, this was kind of interesting because, one, this talks about how the Class 6 Escape Pod, which was developed by the Krillian Engineering Corporation, so it ended up being basically the default design. So it became the workhorse of escape pods, and it or a third-party look-alike. So basically, other people would make the escape pods based on the Class 6, and um, so yeah, that was they would sell to other ship manufacturers and whatnot, but it was basically the main one that got used. So um, they were easy to use. Somewhere here it talks about how many people could get into it. Uh, I don't remember where that was, but I'm pretty sure that it talks about that. Where uh, obviously it depends on the size, right? Um, I think it says something about four. Four could fit in the ship normally, anyway. Uh, but of course, it depends on size of the people. Oh, here we go. Class 6 model designed to carry 6 average human-sized passengers. So there you go, 6. And then they did have some that could carry more. So that was interesting. So this one talks about Yoda's escape pods. So this was kind of interesting. So um, Kashyyyk escape pods. When separatist battle droids began the occupation of Kashyyyk, the Wookiees prepared thousands of escape pods in case it became necessary to evacuate their planet. Uh, hand built by urban joiners and artisans, each pod measured 3.4 meters tall and 2.3 meters in diameter, just big enough for a single occupant. Their maximum acceleration in open space was 140 G. That's pretty good. Yoda's escape pod. Escape pods aren't only intended installed aboard starships. They can also be found aboard space stations and even planetside. Towards the end of the Clone Wars, the Wookiees of the planet Kashyyyk hid thousands of escape pods around the planet in case Separatist attack succeeded. It was such an escape pod, constructed from parts of crashed starships, that Chewbacca and Tarful guided Jedi Master Yoda and helped him escape when Palpatine issued Order 66. The escape pods are equipped with emergency distress beacons so that they can be tracked. When trying to avoid capture in interplanetary space, as Yoda was, it is wise to deactivate this. Yoda uses Jedi Pocket emergency transmitter to send a signal to Senator Bail Organa of Alderaan aboard the CR-90 Corvette Tantive 4, the which picked him up. Yoda traveled in a much larger and more sophisticated escape pod when he set off from Paulus Massa to go into self-imposed exile on Dagobah. This was an E3 standard lander equipped with advanced guidance systems and landing mechanisms. And then, of course, this talks about the escape pods used from the Tantive 4 and all that kind of stuff. So, give me 1 second here. Just got to clean off my glasses. There we go. 19 years later, one of the Tantive 4 Corellian Engineering Corporation Class 6 escape pods would determine the fate of the Rebel Alliance and by extension the galaxy by carrying droids C-3PO and R2-D2. The ship's emergency equipment included 8 Class 6 escape pods, as well as 4 12-seaters, which were armed with mounted laser cannons. However, the Tantive 4 Rebel crew knew that fleeing a waiting Imperial Star Destroyer in an escape pod would be futile and thus stayed aboard. A number of pods were nevertheless discharged from the stricken Tantive 4. The gunners on board the Imperial ship Devastator declined to waste a shot destroying pods that showed no signs of organic life. They were not to know that a resourceful astromech had overridden the interlock that would normally prevent droids from entering, or that it was carrying the exact item Darth Vader was searching for. The behind the scenes here. The sequence showing the escape pod tumbling from the Tantive 4 was one of the first visual effects shot to be completed by the new team that had been assembled to work on Star Wars. With George Lucas due to return from principal photography, ILM was under immense time pressure and put the shot together in around 10 days. The escape pod, a prop that would not be seen again, was constructed very cheaply by sticking a cut-down disposable paint bucket on top of a whole one, filling the two with foam and removing the buckets to leave a solid capsule shape, which was dressed up with kit bash model parts and painted. The model makers also built part of the launch bay with electromagnets holding the pod in place. The miniature set was positioned hanging below a camera in such a way that when the pod was released, it simply fell towards a piece of black velvet on the floor. As it did so, the pod momentarily flashed past a strong light source and was followed by a handful of mica dust that looked like the glittering particles seen in real-world shots of rockets separating from their boosters. So yeah, they did a really good job of that because, I mean, it looked pretty real, right? So there you go. That is everything for issue 53. I've gone ahead and primed this, and I'll probably start the painting process sometime this weekend. So that is everything from issue 53 there, and in issue 54. And so we're going to get all this kind of fun stuff, and I'm sure that we'll be assembling this framework and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what we get into in issue 54. I want to thank everybody for watching. Very much appreciate it. Throw some comments down below. Tell me what you thought of this issue. And I'll say, may the force be with you always.